Hello, welcome to the Gregory C. This is video 2 for December 24th, 2019. Let's talk about private property. I don't know if you're aware of an allodial title or a land patent. This is a description from wikipedia.org. Wikipedia has been disputed for accuracy, but we'll read what they say. Allodial title constitutes ownership of real property, land, building, and fixtures that is independent of any superior landlord. Allodial title is related to the concept of land held in allodium, or land ownership by occupancy and defense of the land. Historically, much of the land was uninhabited and could therefore be held in allodium. This is from freedomforallseasons.org, an article called Allodial Land Title. I'll read briefly from this website for you. It says, many Americans have not come to the realization that their homes, businesses, and properties are collateral on the federal debt. Even if you have the deed and it's paid for in full, if the federal government defaults on its interest obligation, the private world bankers automatically become the new landlords of every home, business, and property in the United States. There are definitions included here. They talk about a warranty deed of conveyance as a color of title, and they use Black's Law Dictionary of Color of Title, basically saying that if you have what you think is a title to your land, if you paid off all the debt obligations, you don't actually own the land. There's many references here. I encourage you to read this website. But it's my understanding that the United States was founded on the property of owning private land. This is one of the reasons that our founders escaped from Great Britain and fought the Revolutionary War so that we could own our private property. And if you own a land patent or have an allodial title on your land, you can pass this land to your offspring, your son or daughter, one person to one person through the generations, and you can keep this land. And you have a protection from the federal government that declares that you own the land above and beyond their authority. Right now we have the federal government has laws of eminent domain, which can be exercised to claim your land. And imagine if you don't pay your property taxes, you default, men with guns will come to your house and take your land away. So even though you think you have a deed to your land, you've paid off your mortgage, you don't really own this land. I've done some research on where you can obtain a land patent and allodial title in the United States. I've read different things. Some websites describe a process in which you can relieve the property of its debt, do research on the history, file paperwork with the federal courts and the Bureau of Land Management, and engage in the federal court system and declare a land patent on your land. You have to mark off the property, and there's a waiting period for disputes. And on one side, it looks like it's possible. I've read other websites that say it's not possible anywhere. Some websites say Nevada and Texas are the only places where this is possible. And then I've read websites that say that it's no longer possible there either. So I'm not really sure what the ultimate truth of this is. It may be that right now the private bankers who own the Federal Reserve that were not elected, that print Federal Reserve notes, which are not dollars. Dollars are backed by gold. Federal Reserve notes are backed by debt, and Federal Reserve loans money to Congress at interest. Anyway, it's my understanding that they have put a layer in between your private property rights and you. So I don't know if it's possible to get an allodial title. If you can, and you own the deed to your title, I would encourage you to look into this process and seek to get a land patent for yourself. Otherwise, I don't think the economy we have right now will go forever. You can look at the number of dollars in circulation in the United States over time. You can understand the devaluation of currency we've seen in the last 100 years. You can understand that things like the repo market bailout that's happening right now. I've heard estimates of $500 billion up to $1 trillion are being injected into the repo markets to relieve them. And in my understanding, that's just someone clicking on a keyboard and coming up with up to $1 trillion and handing it to the repo markets, which inflates the amount of currency in circulation and devalues the dollar that's in your pocket. So these are things to understand. if these trends continue and our currency comes to be devalued, there may become the day that you have to pay $1 million for a loaf of bread. I mean, certainly that's happened in other countries. You can look in Africa and see where currencies have experienced hyperinflation and prices have gone out of control, where you have to have a backpack full of cash just to buy anything. This may not be knocking at the door, but if these trends continue, these are the kind of things we may experience. And understand that if the property that you live on, that you pay taxes to for the federal government, is subject to eminent domain and is held as collateral to a debt that potentially China holds. So even if it's outside your control and one day the federal government is not able to cover its debt obligations, then someone is going to want to claim that collateral. Could be interpreted as a really big setup. The American people are being set up for what could be potentially an intentional default someday. So these are things to understand. I encourage you to do your own research and understand the position that we are in America today. Thank you for your time.